This episode of Grounded in Maine is sponsored by ESG Review. ESG Review magazine is published quarterly in February, May, August, and November, and is available for free in print and digital formats. ESG Review is devoted to environmental, social, and governance strategies, technologies, and investments. ESGreview.net is updated every Wednesday with 8 new stories and is home to feature articles, news items, and more. Visit esgreview.net to stay informed and help us spark the collaboration and awareness needed to develop sustainable economies and communities around the world.
There's a place where there's no trouble, no more pain, no more struggle.
Grounded in Maine podcast is an open conversation about how we show up for the world. I started this podcast out of a desire to learn new ways to be sustainable because the word sustainability is big. It can be overwhelming, and I just wanted to learn, different ways to try to be part of the solution and not feel like it's too late. So I am talking to people who are doing different things and learning so much. I hope that you are too. Hi there. Thank you so much for listening to Grounded in Maine today. My name is Amy Fagan. My guest today is Nancy Chan of Kori Krill Oil. And this may seem like a subject that may or may not be interesting to you. I was not quite so sure, but she is so passionate about her product, and she has some really great things to share about krill oil. And what interested me is that she was talking about how krill oil is better than fish oil, and I personally am a fish oil taker, and I also don't enjoy fish. So I was very curious, and Nancy blew my mind a little bit, which I always love. But so she's got some really great things to share, and the conversation was so fun for me, and she was so patient with my silly questions, which I, of course, appreciate. But anyway, so she's going to talk about krill oil and why it's better for us than fish oil as an omega-3. Why it's better than omega-3s or why it's better than fish oil as an omega-3, and why they're more sustainable, why it's more sustainable than fish oil, and she's going to talk about some other stuff too, all around the krill oil subject, but very, very interesting. And so I hope that you enjoy it. I hope you'll listen in because she's so passionate about it, and she's just very cool. So I hope you enjoy this. If you love this podcast, please feel free to share it with somebody that you care about, that you think would enjoy it also. If you enjoy it also, please feel free to rate and review wherever you're listening. And that just helps to get the podcast in front of new listeners, which is always my goal, to just share the message a little bit wider. If you really don't like the podcast, please let me know. Because if I can change it at all to bring value to you, that I would love to do that. So just let me know. And if you would like to be a podcast guest, if you have a story to share, or if you have some sustainable act that you're really excited about, please share it with me and let me know. You can find my guest form on my website. Is it on my website? It's on my bio, at least. But anyway, thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great rest of the day. Here is Nancy Chan.
My guest today is Nancy Chan. Nancy is with Kori Krill Oil. It's kind of a tongue twister, unless you practiced it a lot. But Nancy, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited about your message.
Thank you so much for having me, Amy.
How are you today?
I'm good. I'm so
Good.
excited for the chance to be able to tell everyone a little bit more about Kori, our brand, as well as a little small nutritional powerhouse that is Antarctic Krill.
Antarctic krill
Yes,
specifically.
yes.
Ooh, okay.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, here it comes. She's just eking it out a little bit at a time. But so one of the things that really interested me is because I actually take fish oil, and so I'm always up for like why should I change that? And it was more than just krill oil. It's the sustainability of it,
Mm.
and that your company is working with another company, and um, I live in the country. Um, uh, and the sustainability efforts that your businesses are working on. So I am so glad that you're here. I'm thrilled to learn more about krill oil and why I should be taking it.
Yeah,
So
if it's okay for me to jump in, why don't I
go right for
first
it.
start off with explaining what is krill, what is krill oil, why do we even need omega 3s, right? And where I would start off first off is omega 3s. Omega 3s are an essential nutrient that we all need to support our best health, right? For the most part, I think many people associate omega 3s with heart and cardiovascular health, but actually, omega 3s support so much more beyond just your heart health. It's really an amazing nutrient that supports your total body health. The catch with omega 3s, though, is that our bodies cannot naturally make it. Unlike something like vitamin D, where your body can make vitamin D, we can't make omega 3s. And the only way we can get omega 3s is through our diet. Now, the best sources of omega 3s actually come from fatty fish seafood. So think kind of salmon and fatty fish. And kind of fun party fact is that the reason why salmon meat, when you kind of get a piece of salmon, the reason why it's pinkish, is because salmon has such a high diet in krill. And it's the krill that makes the salmon meat pinkish because of the nutrients. So that's kind of like fun party fact on the side. So suffice to say, the challenge with Americans is that with such a heavy meat and potatoes kind of diet here, most Americans, the statistic is really shocking, right? 70% of us have an omega level that's way too low because over 90% of us are not getting enough seafood in our diet. And because of that, we need to be able to get more omega 3s in. And so supplements are a great way for anyone who, one, doesn't have a lot of access to seafood, or two, who doesn't like to eat seafood, right? Now, enter in fish oils and krill oil. Now, I think most people are familiar with fish oil when we say the word omega 3s because I think they've been most associated as kind of the supplement to go to get omega 3s. And krill oil is more newer in the market. It's probably been around for the last 10 to 13 years or so, krill oil. And it's also a marine source. Now, krill oil is sourced from an animal, a marine species called krill. And krill are these small kind of shrimp-like crustaceans. Now, the great thing about krill is that they're so nutrient dense and nutrient packed. So they're able to deliver the omega 3 fatty acids that we need and that we find in fish, like EPA and DHA. But what you also get in krill oil is that you get an additional essential nutrient called choline, which is really great to support your brain and your nervous system and your liver. And krill also comes with it the antioxidant called astaxanthin. And it's the astaxanthin, which is what creates this brilliant kind of red color in all of the krill supplements that you see. And it's also what makes the salmon meat pink when you eat a piece of salmon. So it's the antioxidant astaxanthin. So all of these great nutrients are part of krill oil. The other amazing thing about krill oil is that unlike fish oil, what happens in processing with fish oils is that the chemical makeup of fish changes when it gets processed and converted into fish oil. Now, if you were to eat a piece of real fish like salmon, The omega-3 fatty acids that are delivered in a real piece of fish are delivered in what we call triglyceride formats, as well as phospholipids, right? Those two are very important carriers of the EPA and the DHA nutrients. What ends up happening is that through the manufacturing process to convert fish into fish oil, the phospholipids disappear, no more. So in fish oil supplements, all you get are omega-3 nutrients delivered in a triglyceride form. This triglyceride form, picture it like oil and water. They don't mix very well. So when you take a fish oil supplement, sometimes people will say, oh, I get a fishy aftertaste or I get a burp. And that's because of this kind of water oil kind of scenario whereby it doesn't blend so well in your stomach, and your stomach needs to do a lot of work to kind of break it down. And while it's doing that, you get the burp backs. Because you know what happens when you shake, say, a vinegar dressing, not vinegar dressing, salad dressing with kind of
The separation.
Vinegar, the separation. That's exactly what happens with fish oils in your belly. Now, with krill oil, the amazing thing is that when krill is turned into krill oil for krill supplements, we don't lose the phospholipids. So I have this kind of running joke with anybody that I meet that krill supplements are actually closer to real fish than fish oil supplements are, because krill oil supplements retains that nice balance of both phospholipids and triglycerides, right? And the great thing about phospholipids and why they're so important for us is that all of our living cells, all of our cell membranes are made up of phospholipids. So they're naturally in our body. So when we take a krill oil supplement, which contains the phospholipids, our bodies are naturally more receptive to them because there's a natural match, right? Phospholipids are part of our cell membranes. They're looking for these friendly phospholipids, which are carrying with them the EPA and the DHA nutrients. And naturally, they just link together. And because of that, what we're able to do with krill oil is that we're able to make the nutrients more bioavailable. So your body has a better ability to absorb the nutrients and get them to where they need to go to in your body. And then on top of that, because they mix so much better in your stomach doesn't have to work so hard to break them down. So you actually don't get any of the burp backs with krill oil. So some really exciting stuff. And then there's also the sustainability element of krill, which I think we're going to talk a little bit about later. But just from a sheer benefit perspective, to me, why I'm so passionate about krill and krill oil is that krill has all of these additional nutrients in it. It's got these amazing benefits, which fish oil doesn't have. And I think it's one of the newer sources that are really exciting in the marketplace that my team and my brand that we're hoping to be able to bring to your listeners as well as every other American.
That's really cool.
So
what
I thought so too when I first learned about krill.
Right?
That's why I'm a believer.
Right? What's the did you say it's choline that is good for your brain? Choline.
Yes.
Okay. And that is so that's really cool. I have seen the krill oil supplements before, and I think they come in, I've seen them in like a red bottle because the supplements are red, or maybe I could just see the red supplements. But are all krill oil supplements the same?
Not all krill oil supplements are the same, because krill is actually available in all the oceans around the world. And what we find is that the highest concentration and the purest concentration of them are actually in Antarctica. That's where my spoiler alert now comes to life, right? We source all of our krill oil from Antarctica. Now, there are other krill oils that are sourced in other parts of the world. So not every krill oil is equal in that respect, not just from the potential nutrient content of the krill, but also in terms of the operations behind the vessels who are harvesting the krill and then turning them into krill oil. So there is a difference in terms of those practices and those operations as well.
Interesting. Yeah. And I had a thought, and I'm going to have to come back to it because I lost it. Are there any... Okay, so you said that you eat fish, you eat a lot of fish, yes, and you take the krill oil. So yes, My question is there a possibility of like not overdosing, but just like overdoing it?
No, there really isn't right now, and there's been no studies in regards to being able to get too much omega threes. Not at all that we've seen.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Is there such a thing for fish oil? Do you know?
In terms of having too much fish oil,
Yeah.
no, there really isn't. And from the fish oil perspective, again, the main nutrients in fish oil are the EPA and the DHA, right? Fatty acids that are delivered into the body. So from that perspective, there's also, there isn't any solid concrete evidence out there that says you can get too much and too much is bad for you. Now, what I will say is that for all of your listeners, because these are supplements, be it fish or be it krill, you should always check with your doctor to make sure that the supplement is right for you, right? Because there are instances from an omega, just a general omega 3 perspective, where omega 3s also act as blood thinners. So if you are, on statins and things like that, you just have to be a little bit careful. And then with krill, because it comes from a crustacean, anyone with a shellfish allergy
Okay.
needs to be careful, and krill is probably not the right option for someone with a shellfish allergy. But other than that, it's been very proven to be very safe.
Good point.
Yeah,
And krill is what whales eat?
it
Is
is.
that
It's
right?
what whales and penguins eat, and other fish, and salmon, clearly.
Right.
Yes.
That's a really interesting point about salmon too. I had no idea. I just thought it was just a pink fish. But salmon is pink on the inside and all other fish are not? So salmon
Um,
must eat more?
yes, salmon has a very high concentration of krill in their diet.
So if you are sourcing your krill from Antarctica, is it, how do I want to say this? Is it higher quality because it's like cleaner water? Because I would imagine if you were catching really anything off of the US, it's going to be a little bit less nutrient dense.
Yeah, I think there's two components to that quality, right? One, which is krill in and of itself, is at the very beginning of the food chain. So krill pretty much feeds on algae and phytoplankton, right? Which are at the very beginning of the food chain. So from that perspective, you just think about the food chain, there's not a lot of contamination to be had because krill is so early on in that food chain. The only thing it's eating is the algae sources, right?
Okay.
Unlike when you start to go up the food chain, the more predators that kind of come higher in the food chain, they're eating the animal or the plant underneath them. And that's where the contamination starts to happen, right? So when you compare kind of krill at the very beginning of the food chain and you compare fish, which is higher up, that's where you always hear a lot of concerns with fish and mercury concerns and things like that, because fish are higher up on the food chain. So they're eating more things below the food chain, which exposes them to greater chances of quote unquote contamination. One, that's the great thing about krill, low on the food chain, eating algae and phytoplankton. So very low chances of having any of those type of concerns. The second piece of this is with Kori, for example, because we source our krill from Antarctica, for the most part, are very pristine waters right now that have very little contamination for all of the great work that the government is doing there to protect the ecosystem. So naturally, you're getting krill in a more pure environment as well, which is always an amazing thing, which is why I said the source of your krill and not all krill oils
Mm-hmm.
are created equal. And it's important to be looking for those sources.
Okay. This might make me sound really dumb, but did you say the Antarctica government?
Yes.
Do they have a government?
It's a convenient way for me to describe it. It's not so much the government, but the way that we work is in order for us to be able to harvest in Antarctica, there is an organization called Calamar for short, and they are the Commission for the Conservation of Antarctic Marine Living Resources. Now, this commission's role is to regulate any of the commercial fishing activity that happens in Antarctica. And
Okay.
this commission is made up of 20 countries. And so to do anything and get the alignment to pass any type of regulation requires a lot of coordination and a lot of alignment from that perspective. So I use government as a way
Okay.
of kind of shorthanding to say there are a lot of organizations that are proactively protecting and looking out for the welfare of our southern oceans.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. I just was like, are there residents? Wow. Okay, with the penguins. That's really interesting. Oh my gosh. And it makes total sense that the waters are just cleaner, but people are also trying really hard to protect that because it's all we've got for clean water. Oh my gosh. So cool. Let's see. So, krill, are we taking food from the whales? Do whales go down toward Antarctica? Are we like
Yes. So in the Antarctic ecosystem, there are whales, there are penguins, and there's other marine life clearly as well, right? But
right?
I get asked this question quite often of, oh my God, are you starving the penguins? Oh my God, are you starving the whales, right? Like humans have so much other food to eat. Why do you have to take the food from them? And I think one of the little known facts, because that kind of storyline is so kind of dramatic that I think a lot of people just remember that. Like, why would you want to take the food from the penguins? Penguins are, defenseless. Why would you do that? And I think one of the little known facts that we're trying to educate people on is that there's such an abundance of krill, right? That in the krill oil supplement industry, we're barely making a dent in what is actually a very renewable resource. And if I can share some of the stats with you and your listeners,
Please.
krill is the largest animal species biomass on Earth. So there exists 500 million tons of krill swimming in the ocean. And most of that is concentrated into Antarctica, right? And krill are really efficient at reproducing. A female krill can produce 10,000 eggs in one go, right? So you're talking about the largest biomass on Earth, so large that they are the only ones that you can see from outer space when they come together in a swarm. And that's amazing. So satellites can actually pick them up in a giant pink swarm in the oceans from outer space. That's how cool and how big they are, right?
That is
Now,
cool.
500 million tons is a whole lot of krill out there, right? So from that perspective, there's the element of now we kind of get into this sustainability element around krill, and sustainability is very much connected to making sure that we are protecting or not leaving our ecosystem in a worse off place than before we came. That's one very important element for us in our operations. And I believe that sustainability for krill oil comes in two main factors. One, which is krill as the source by itself that I just described, right? There's so much krill out there in an abundance in the ocean. The second piece of this is what are we doing to ensure that we're not taking all of the food away from the marine ecosystem that's there? And that's part of the inspiring story that brought me to Kori and brought me here to the team to kind of tell the story. I think there's an element that most people are not aware of, that from a Kori perspective, we are owned and made by the world's #1 maker of krill oil. And the operations behind Kori, we're so dedicated to ensuring the sustainability practices that some of the things that we do include this first piece of answering your question around whether or not we're taking all of the food away from the animal ecosystem. The first thing that we do with our mother company, Aqua Biomarine, which is the company that I just cited, the world's largest maker of krill oil, what we do is we work with the calamar organization that I just mentioned to be able to regulate the catch that's allowed in the oceans. So in the fish oil catching industry, in the krill oil catching industry, there are what's called quotas that are set up, right, for each of the fisheries, meaning that any commercial fishery and boat with the proper license to go and fish in that geography, there's a catch limit. Once you reach that catch limit, then your season is kind of done and nobody's allowed to catch anymore until the next season comes, right? Now, to give you a perspective of the difference and anchoring this into the 500 million tons that we were just talking about, our mother company has worked with Calamar to set a precautionary limit of a quota of only 1% of the biomass, which means that we're leaving 99% to the rest of the marine ecosystem for all of the whales, for all of the penguins and the fish to continue feeding. Compare that to the fish oil industry, and the fish oil industry has a catch quota that's around 10%, significantly more than krill. So the first place that we talk about from a sustainability perspective is just managing being responsible for the catch quota to make sure we're not over catching and over harvesting. And that's one really important thing about krill, so that we're not taking out too much and there's so much left over for the rest of the ecosystem.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what happens once that 1% is caught, then no one's fishing?
No one is fishing until the next season. But right now, the entire krill oil industry, we're nowhere close to that 1%. The highest that the seasons have reached, I believe, is a 0.6% of that 1% quota.
Oh, okay.
So far from coming anywhere close to that precautionary limit.
Okay. All right. And so the krill, I'm just, because I've looked at my labels on my fish oil supplements before, and I don't even know how many different fishes there are, and I'm imagining some of them are not, like, they're not fish that I would eat, but I don't really eat fish. So I don't really know, but I know there are probably, feel like there are like 6 different types of fish in the fish oil.
Yeah,
Supplements.
some including like anchovies, sardines, which are big sources. Yes.
Yeah. And so it's just a mix of I don't know, whatever they can catch. Is it like less, I don't know, are they less picky? Do you know?
It's not so much that they're less picky, but what I would say is that there are designated fisheries around the world as well. Peru, for example, happens to be the largest fish fishery that supplies into the fish oil supplement industry, right? And Peru is a huge fishery that contains these fish that the industry goes to go catch. And it's not so much that they take whatever's available, but the most important nutrient that the industry is trying to deliver for consumers are these omega-3 EPA and DHA long chain fatty acids. And they come, again, you can find them in different varying sources of fish, right? I believe that you'll also find salmon oil supplements, for example, right? So that one is specifically sourced from salmon oil. Many of the major brands, I believe, they source from this blend because it's a way for them to be able to utilize the fish that's available, but also their primary concern is how do we deliver the EPA, DHA to consumers through our supplement? The downside to that, which I had discovered and I was a little bit disappointed in, was that because of all of the varying different types of fish that are used to create the fish oil supplements in a lot of these really big brands, and because there's a need to, look at the fish and where they sit in this kind of food chain, what a lot of these big brands in the fish oil industry do is in their processing, they have to send the fish meal through an extra kind of distillation refinement process to remove any mercury, right? And so they recognize that there's a potential risk. And if you read the back of some of the fish oil labels, you'll see where they'll say, purify to remove mercury levels, things like that, right? The great news about krill, we don't have to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're like extra processed.
That they have to go through, yeah.
Yeah. So it's extra like work, extra everything, basically. It's a whole extra process.
It
Okay,
is.
interesting.
Yeah.
And so the krill oil supplements, is it just krill oil in the little? Are they in the little gel caplets?
Yes. So from a Kori perspective, we have our supplements in a soft gel. We also have launched them in gummies as well for those people who have a hard time swallowing kind of soft gels.
Or
And then
really
what
like
we
candy?
yes, that too. But then what we've also started to do is we've also started to take krill oil and partner them with other ingredients as well, right? So I'm not sure if you can see behind me, but for example, here I have one of our stress and body SKUs where we partner our krill oil with ashwagandha to be able to deliver the omega-3 benefits that you need. But then the ashwagandha is able to work with the krill to be able to then deliver the stress and mood support that you might need as well.
Nice.
So we're taking krill oil into new spaces to be able to give and provide additional benefits for consumers.
More bang for your buck.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's very cool. I I maybe shouldn't be saying this out loud, but if you were getting krill oil gummies, do they taste like fish? Because
I think it depends. We have put our krill oil gummies in front of some consumer testing to try to see if people are picking up on any of the fish taste. So our krill oil gummies are created with a natural citrus mint flavor to help kind of offset any of the fishiness that someone might take. I think it depends on the individual palate. In total transparency, I eat a lot of seafood, so I'm used to seafood and my palate likes seafood. So when I take our gummies, I don't really taste it. I have had some people who are a bit more sensitive who have said, "Oh, I'm not sure what I'm tasting. Maybe it is some of the krill or maybe some of the fishiness." So it's hard to say. I think it depends on everyone's individual palate. But we've tried our hardest to be able to find the right flavor pairing with the krill to reduce that type of fishy taste experience that you might get. Yeah. But
okay. Just a little aside.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's cool. I mean, I like that there's that you're kind of branching out a little bit so that you're hitting more, kind of crossing more things off at the same time. Like I'm all for less is more, like less supplements or whatever. If you're taking one and knocking two things down, that's very cool.
That's our goal and inspiration in that.
Yeah.
And
I mean, ashwagandha is so good for a lot of things, isn't it?
It is. It really is.
I mean, my herbalist friends would be, I'm not going to tell them that I'm doing this because I don't remember a lot of things. but I know that they put it in like an elderberry syrup. They'll put ashwagandha. I know. And I feel like it's good for repelling ticks.
That I've not heard, I will be honest.
It might be something else. But anyway, but that's really cool because it is, it's an herbal thing and it's really good for, it helps out a lot of areas. I'm going to stop talking.
There's been a lot of clinical studies behind the power of ashwagandha. There's a lot of clinical studies behind the power of krill. So bringing them together was natural for us.
The power move. Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, Amy, if I have a chance, I'd love to be able to kind of come back to some of the sustainability because I feel like I've only told you one small facet of everything that we're doing. And I think, hopefully you can hear it from me in terms of how passionate and how jazzed I am about and being proud of the work that our team does and our mother company does behind the sustainability. And, it's the tip of the iceberg here. That first piece with setting the quota and the catch limits and being proactive in that. There's another element behind krill and behind Kori, which is this entire concept of how do you actually harvest and take the marine animal out of the ocean onto your boats, right? And maybe this is another kind of aha little known fact, right? But when you think about the fish catching industry, usually what technology is, you've got fishing vessels out in the waters. They cast the net in, right? The net acts as a troll. They kind of gather all of the fish in the catch, and then they have to raise the net to bring the catch onto the boat, right? Like, I think we've all seen a lot of seasons of Deadliest Catch where that happens with a lot of different marine species. But what ends up happening in that process actually is that when you're raising the nets, there's a risk of something called bycatch. And I don't know if you're familiar with what that term is, but bycatch means, hey, you went in to catch a specific type of, say, fish, for example, and bycatch is in your nets, what you've hauled up onto your boats, is something that you didn't mean to catch. A poor seal, a different type of predatory fish, or things like that. And bycatch is a big topic in the world of sustainability, because what happens is that when the fishing nets are being brought up to the surface, all of the catch is being concentrated into one area. They can't swim away when a predator comes close to them, right? So what ends up happening is that the predator fish and the other predator animals in the ocean see the nets being hauled up, so they kind of get attracted to it and they want to go and have their lunch and have their dinner, and they end up getting caught in the nets. Right. And that's a little known kind of dark side of the fishing industry, where there's actually quite a lot of bycatch. With krill, and what my mother company has done with Akaba Marine, is that we have a patented technology whereby we don't actually ever have to raise the nets, because our patented technology kind of works like a vacuum. If you picture a vacuum, we have this kind of vacuum-like apparatus that gets submerged into the water, and it stays in the water. And that vacuum is able to then transport and suck up the krill right onto the boat, because krill are so small. It's not like the larger fish. Right. And so because we never have to raise the net, we actually don't have bycatch. And so it's another way that investment and dedication to the ecosystem comes to life, because in this way, we're not then risking or jeopardizing the other marine animals that are part of this ecosystem. And that's something where, when I first learned about that from my mother, I was like, wow, you know what? That is really cool.
That's genius.
Really, yeah. And they have a patent on it. And so it's something we're really proud of, to say, hey, we have a way to immediately bring krill on board, immediately process it with no bycatch. It's pretty cool. The other thing that we love to do is, because we are in the Southern Oceans, and because we are the world's #1 maker of krill oil, there's a lot of technology that we've adapted as well. So it's also not your kind of old traditional kind of fishing boats and things like that, but it's to the point where we've invested in drone technology, right? Here's another kind of picture to paint for you and your listeners. When you think about fishing boats that are out there, I think the traditional means of kind of locating fish and the schools of fish is kind of sonar related, right? And when you find the big pocket of fish, you steer the boat that way. By the time you steer the boat that way, TBD if the fish are still going to be there, or if they've swam off to a different location. Now, when you think about giant fishing vessels, that's a lot of fuel to burn to chase after the fish, right? So what we did was we said, you know what, we're going to actually implement drone technology, because drone technology can be handled remotely, significantly less energy usage, and we're going to use the drone technology to actually help us locate the swarms of where the krill are actually coming together before we ever move the boat. So it saves us so much fuel from having a giant boat kind of, going around the Southern Oceans, and instead we're deploying the drones, and then once we're actually finding them, then we move the boats there. So it's another just kind of example of being so sensitive to the ecosystem and the impact that we could have in the environment, that we're putting in all of this type of technology before we, quote unquote, deploy the big guns.
Right. Yeah. I would imagine, though, with 500 million tons of krill, they would be pretty easy to find wherever you are, though, too.
You would think that, but because there's 500 million tons, each krill, they're quite small. I mean, I think an adult krill is at max 2 inches big, right? So they're very small animals, right? And so from that perspective, even though there's a lot of them in the water, and you think about how deep the oceans are and how wide, maybe not so easy to always get them. Yeah.
Good one.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really great. I love that. I love the vacuum idea, so that you literally can't get anything bigger than krill.
Yeah. And the krill fishery in Antarctica is so well managed that we're the only fishery. We're the only fishery in the industry, and this includes krill and the fish related fisheries. We're the only fishery to have ever gotten an A rating by an independent organization called the Sustainable Fisheries Partnership. And their entire role is that they go around and they audit these fisheries to ensure that the management of them are tip top, and to ensure the proper, responsible, sustainable sourcing for the entire kind of seafood industry. So we're the only fishery to ever have gotten an A rating, and we've
Wow.
gotten this A rating 7 years running in a row. So again,
Wow.
another fact that, if you'll allow me, I'll pound the chest on behalf of the team, right? I can't take the credit. I benefit from the credit because I'm allowed to tell the story out to you and your listeners, but it's quite inspiring.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good for you guys. Good for us. And so I just want to reiterate. You were saying, Nancy, that pretty much everyone in the United States should be taking
Omegas.
omega-3s.
Yes.
And more specifically, probably krill oil, unless there's an allergy to shellfish.
Yeah, I mean, what I always say to everyone is, even though I head up a supplement brand, my recommendation is get it from fatty fish if you can, right? Fatty fish is the gold standard when you're going to eat a real chunk of fish, right? That is the gold standard. That's what I recommend to everybody. But like I said, I recognize not everybody likes to eat fish. Not everybody can get their hands on good quality fish that will deliver to you those nutrients without any of the mercury or the contamination kind of concerns. And if you're someone kind of in that situation, then I really hope that you will consider a supplement. And then as part of that, I really hope that you'll consider Kori and krill for all of the great benefits that we can deliver.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm going to have to look into that now and run that by my doctor. But thank you so much for that. That's really interesting. I had no idea. To be honest, I was a little turned off by the red color, but there are so many things that have like dyes in them just to,
all natural.
Yeah, they're
all
just
natural.
naturally red.
But you have to look, because there's some krill brands out there where if you turn to the back of the pack, you'll see something that says red 40. That's a no. You don't want to go there. That means they're not using a high enough quality krill, and they have to put a dye in to kind of get that red color. If you turn around the back of a Kori box, the only ingredient you're going to see in there is the krill oil and whatever makes up our soft gel that we need to hold the krill oil in.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Whew. Wow, that was a lot. That's really cool. But
I could keep talking for hours.
Oh my gosh. So that was okay. Whew. Need a second. So krill is more sustainable because it is reproducing so much. I imagine, 500 million tons of krill all reproducing.
Yes.
That's a lot. I would love to. I'm gonna have to look up and see if I can see like the swarms from space. That would be super cool.
Yeah.
And they are not overfished in like generally, at least by Kori, we know, but because there's so much, it's hard. You said it's just 1%, but that's just Kori.
No, that's the entire industry. That's the entire krill industry.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that's how proactive our mother company Ackerbau Marine is in working with the other 20 nations that make up Calamar. So they set that standard for the entire krill oil industry.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. And so it's very responsibly fished. That's great. Okay. And with your sustainability efforts, you are reducing, or you're completely taking out the bycatch. There's no bycatch to be had. And so that's very sustainable. And you're using drones and waiting until you actually find the fish to go get the fish. That's really great. Wow. That's so much information, Nancy. Oh my goodness. I can't believe you can talk for hours. That just is so much, it's so much information to have in your head, and it just flowed right out of you. It was amazing. So I always ask everybody, this is really interesting. I really need to look into this. I'm going to be looking into to Kori Krill Oil for sure. When I say the word sustainability, what does that mean to you personally?
I mean, sustainability to me is about recognizing that there are limited resources on the earth and doing our best, both as people and as companies and organizations, to be able to protect that and be able to understand and learn from all of the actions that we have so that we can protect and leave our ecosystem and our environment in a equally strong place as before we came in to ever touch it. And sustainability for me comes in kind of many different forms, right? There's sustainability through operations, which is environmental sustainability. How do we have an impact on the environment that we're operating in, right? But there's other elements of sustainability from the standpoint of kind of social sustainability, right? In my mind, which is what are we doing to educate people about all of the things that can be done, and how do we take that through and understand that sustainability is not something that you have to trade off on, right? Like quite often what I see a lot of is people say, oh no, sustainability means, being sustainability means I have to pay more for something, and I don't know if I'm willing to pay more for something. And that should never have to be a choice, right? And I think the more we can educate people and the more that we kind of hold ourselves and companies responsible for it, we're able to kind of practice that type of social sustainability as well, just for that education and that awareness. It's quite, I would say, complex. It's more, to me, it goes far beyond just kind of recognizing environment. It's about also the choices that we're making in every touch point that we have. I talked a lot about the harvesting and the operations behind Kori and behind the krill industry. But from our perspective, the way for me to be able to take that type of legacy that has been built as that foundation is when we were creating Kori, and it came to making choices on our packaging. We were very adamant about saying we have to make packaging choices to ensure that all of our packaging is recyclable, right? We don't want to kind of fall short at the last step. The other thing that we are very much about with sustainability is transparency. I think that's huge from a sustainability standpoint, right? Having people understand, what does it actually mean? How are you defining sustainability for people to be able to understand that? And transparency is very important for us. One of the things that we do on our product is on the back of our product, actually, I don't even know if you can see it through the camera, but you see it, there's a QR code on our packaging, right? With this little Antarctic map. We're so proud of our sustainability practices that if you scan that QR code on the back of our carton, you can actually see where your bottle of Kori was harvested from in Antarctica by a GPS location. So that's from the transparency perspective. We want people to know, where did your krill come from? Where did this pot of Kori come from? That's also a really important part for me in terms of sustainability, having that transparency.
Right. Wow. And I mean, and also from a health standpoint, but I love that you said, we shouldn't have to compromise. There should not be a compromise for sustainability, whereas, where our supplements and everything is coming from. Like you shouldn't have to choose what you're going to, if you're going to eat sustainably or eat healthy or not. Yeah. Like that it shouldn't be like that. And it's unfortunate that is our world right now. But on a health standpoint, like you were saying, you started taking omega-3s, or you were taking fish oil for the omega-3s for your skin and hair, right?
Yes.
And so, but and more than skin and hair, like, you need those the fatty acids for, to keep your body healthy and to keep going, because it might seem sort of, I mean, I don't know. My first thought was, you must have been younger and, wanting the beautiful skin and whatever, but it's also like, we need that skin. we we really need that skin. So we need it to be healthy. And, I know that it's like sloughing off all the time, but you also need a healthy underlayer. Um, but really interesting, really
Yeah,
interesting.
there's so much that omegas do from a benefit perspective, right? Omegas are actually one of the most studied nutrients in the supplement industry. There's been over 10,000 clinical studies on omegas, right? Which just proves how vital they are. And I think I had mentioned at the beginning of this that for the most part, I think people associate omega benefits with cardiovascular and heart health. And a lot of the times, most people get introduced to omegas when they get a little bit older, and they go to the doctor and you go for your annual checkup, and then your doctor comes back and says, oh, your triglycerides are kind of getting a little bit high, based on your age, I'd recommend you start to take an omega supplement. And my entire mission, again, not just because I'm so passionate about krill, but my entire whole reason for being here with Kori and with krill is that with omegas, they're not just good for heart health, but omegas are actually clinically studied to be able to support your heart, your brain, your joint, your eyes, your skin, and so much more, which is why it's such a hard-working nutrient that we all need. But it's not something that you should only be taking by the time you get to a certain age and your doctor is saying, oops, you need to take this. Because at that point in time, it's almost like you're trying to fix a problem. The great thing about omegas and omega supplements is that it's something that you can take now when you're younger, way below when your doctor is going to tell you have to do something about, quote unquote, your test results, but you can start taking omegas early on. And to me, they are a way to be able to help you build a healthy foundation so that by the time you get to that age and you get to the doctors and the annual checkup, you won't even be hearing that from the doctor. I mean, that's my goal, is to be able to inspire everyone.
Preventative.
Start young, because omegas is what I call the long haul investment in your health, right? Omegas are not meant to be something that is going to solve a problem overnight. It's not medicine, right? And it's not the type of vitamin and supplement like the way an ashwagandha might be, where if you're having mood or stress issues, it can give you more immediate relief. Omegas is what I call long-term investment. But the nature of the fact that they've been studied so much is what gives me confidence and the inspiration to try to get everyone, when they're as young as possible, to start taking omegas. It really is something that will benefit us in the long haul.
Wow. Yeah, so it's like whole body. It's whole body, and we should really start taking it now, or 10 years ago.
But it's never too late.
Wow. That's really, I mean, that's like total body sustainability, like to start early so that you can continue to do things.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So the last thing that I wanted to ask you, Nancy, is just like, how can people find you and find Kori Krill Oil and, do some more research into that?
Yeah, I mean, I would love it if people stop by and check this out on our website, KoriKrillOil.com. That's pretty simple.
That's Kori.
Kori. Drop us a note, come by for a visit. But Kori is also available nationally in most of your favorite retailers like Walmart, Sam's Club, Rite Aid, CVS, Walgreens. So you can pick Kori up at any of those retailers. And we're also available on Amazon. So I would love it if anyone wants to come learn more about krill, please do that on our website. And then I'd love some feedback for anyone who tries it. We're always looking for feedback on the brand and the product.
Awesome. Cool. So KoriKrillOil.com.
Yes.
Sweet. Wow, Nancy. Thank you so much for sharing so much information. My gosh. did not expect this. And I love that. I love those sort of surprises. I was like, how much can I learn about fish oil or krill oil? But you are a wealth of information. I so appreciate that. And
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, my goodness. Absolutely. I'm thrilled. This is awesome. And so I will put this information in the show notes, of course, of the podcast. And I encourage everyone to check into Kori Krill Oil, or krill oil if you don't do brands, but why not Kori? And talk to your doctors.
That would be great. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you again, Nancy. I really appreciate that.
All right. Thank you again for having me and allowing me to tell the story behind Kori and Curr. And hopefully I was able to inspire you and hopefully your listeners to come pay us a visit.
Absolutely. My goodness. Thanks.
Wonderful. Okay.
I just want to take a moment and thank my guest again for speaking with me and sharing such great information. I also need to thank Buzzsprout for hosting this podcast, for Jane Bolduck and her amazing music genius, for Becca Coffron and her beautiful artwork. And I'd like to thank you for listening. Please check out the show notes. I'm going to have links posted in there if you would like to follow this guest and learn more about them. Thank you again. We'll talk to you soon.
There'll come a day, my mama told me, when I find love to have and hold me, a heart that's strong and so sincere. Just tell me, how do I get there from here? Oh, tell me, get there from here, 'cause here and now I'm so far down that mercy's bound to find me. We'll find a way to soothe the sickness, we'll heal the hate with sweet forgiveness. Wages of war will disappear. Just tell me, how do I get there from here? I wonder, how do I get there from here? Yeah, 'cause here now I'm so far down, and mercy's bound to find me. When that state of grace has finally found me, well, there'll be music, ooh, and good friends around me, yeah, yeah. And I'll just smile through happy tears and wonder,